It's spooky season. Time for a Tubi scare, even though every time I watch Tubi, their acting is scarily bad. The Brookhaven police are still searching for a local woman named Heather Crane. Since a doll resembling Heather was found in her home, authorities believe that she's the 8th victim of the serial killer called the Doll Keeper. The news shows the doll and reports that the families of the victims have raised the reward to $250,000 for anyone who can give information that can lead to the capture of the Doll Keeper. Employees Nova, Harper, and Benny are working on the night shift at Big Dripper, a remote diner.
The other night you asked if I could try and dress less dyke.
Harper is super uptight and got a stick up her butt. Deputy Frank and Harper's ex-classmate, Rookie Kate, stop by for food. Frank taunts Benny, who is an ex-convict, saying it only takes one mistake for him to be thrown back to jail. Fat Chin Frank needs to stop eating fries. Meanwhile, Kate mocks Harper for working minimum wage when she used to have straight A's. During break, Nova shares with Benny that she wants to leave town with her younger stepsister Millie and be far away from her no-good stepdad, Wade, but she's too broke to raise a kid on her own. While Nova is by her car, a guy named Grady pulls over next to her and creepily stares at her while smiling before entering the diner. On her way back, Nova takes a look into his car and sees a doll similar to the one on the news. She immediately suspects Grady as the doll keeper and nervously returns to the diner. While Grady is eating, Nova secretly informs Harper and Benny about the Annabelle doll and her suspicions. They decide to gather solid evidence first to avoid falsely alarming the police and agree to split the life-changing reward money. They force Grady to go to the washroom by pouring coffee on him. Nova then takes his car keys so she can search his car. To Nova's horror, she finds Heather's corpse in the trunk and takes photos of her using her phone. She then returns to the diner before Grady does. After vomiting in the kitchen, Nova shows Benny and Harper the photo of Heather's corpse. Nova wants to call the cops, but Benny doesn't want the jerk cops to get the reward. So Benny calls the hotline the family set up to secure the reward. When Benny asks how the payout works, making sure the reward is legit, he is told that his tip is assigned a case ID number, and if the tip leads to an arrest, the fund will be released to him. The owner of the restaurant, Susan, arrives and she looks like the ultimate Karen with that wig. Karens probably get confused when they ask for the manager, and she appears. She goes to the back to seduce Benny, but he's not interested in her leathery skin. Benny informs the hotline operator that the doll keeper is there with him and Heather's corpse is in his car's trunk. The call then abruptly ends when the signal is lost. A woman named Emma arrives and greets Grady. As it turns out, Grady and Emma have been talking online for weeks and are meeting at the diner for the first time. Seeing this, Nova immediately informs Benny and urges him to call the police because Emma is obviously the next victim. Unfortunately, they can't call anyone because the signal and Wi-Fi are down. When Emma orders food to go, Nova warns her not to go anywhere, which weirds her out. Benny instructs Nova to stall their order while he goes to call using the landline, which he discovers to be broken. Meanwhile, Susan finally leaves even though she didn't get to taste Benny's D. Mr. Greenwood, Harper's former teacher and Nova's current teacher, drops by for some coffee, and Grady follows up on Emma's order. Meanwhile, Harper and Benny are trying to fix the broken landline. Nervous that Grady might catch on, Nova decides to drive into town to report it, but Benny and Harper stop her because they might end up with no reward. "You're trying to grab that bag, but you're gonna end up in a body bag." Shortly after, Greenwood, who's sitting in the corner booth, sees Nova pocketing Grady's keys while cleaning their table to delay their departure. When Grady realizes that his keys are missing, he and Benny check the trash, thinking Nova accidentally tossed it. Benny attacks Grady, who overpowers him. Fortunately, Harper arrives and hits Grady in the head, knocking him out. When Nova asks Emma not to leave with Grady, Greenwood asks Nova what's happening. Before she can answer, Wade arrives and drops Millie off. Concerned for Millie's safety, Nova tells Wade she can't babysit Millie at the diner, but Wade doesn't listen to her. Millie is nonverbal and uses sign language. Benny and Harper tie up Grady in a chair in the staff room, and they gag him so he can't scream for help. While Nova assists Millie with her inhaler, Emma, who is wondering where Grady is, goes to the personnel-only area and finds Benny and Harper in the staff room with a tied-up Grady, who asks for her help. When she demands that they let him go, they inform her about the situation, and Grady shakes his head, denying everything. After they try to bribe her with $50 to help them, Emma tries to run, but her big back trips on Grady's moving leg, her head hits a chair, and her neck breaks, resulting in her death, which shocks everyone. Death by chair is crazy. Benny and Harper panic about going to jail. Since Grady is the only witness, Benny suggests killing Grady. He says killing a serial killer is saving a lot of potential victims, and they can still get the reward because they caught him. I mean, technically, Grady killed Emma. When Nova appears after leaving Millie with Greenwood in his booth, Harper tells the horrified Nova that Grady killed Emma. Greenwood appears with Millie, intending to check on them as he's getting concerned about what's going on. Benny and Harper explain the situation, which Grady continues to deny. Nova makes Millie sit back in Greenwood's booth. While she closes the diner early, Millie plays with Greenwood's briefcase. Nova is then horrified to see Millie playing with a doll, like the one on the news but with blonde hair, so she asks her where she got it. When Harper removes Grady's gag to let him talk, Grady desperately explains to Harper that he's not the doll keeper and that he stole the car earlier that evening because he wanted to show Emma that he's successful. Meanwhile, Benny and Greenwood check the service box and discover that the line has been cut. Greenwood then slits Benny's throat. Grady secretly unties himself and attacks Harper when she turns her back on him. She fights back and hits his head repeatedly with a coffee kettle, resulting in his death. Death by coffee kettle is diabolical. Nova digs into Greenwood's bag and finds a small machine. When she turns it off, the signal and Wi-Fi in the area return, so she immediately calls 911. She gets connected to the sheriff's office and tells them where she is, but before she can tell them her emergency, Greenwood returns to the booth, so she drops the call. When Greenwood notices that Nova's phone is getting a call, he immediately checks the machine in his bag and sees that it has been turned off. He turns it back on to block the signal and sees that Nova and Millie are gone. Nova is horrified to find Benny's corpse, and when they get to her car, she realizes that Harper is still inside, so she leaves Millie by her car and makes her hide. Nova returns to the diner, arms herself with a knife, and sees Grady dead. When the police arrive, Nova runs to the front door to unlock it, but she sees Greenwood standing by his booth, holding Millie. Greenwood's mom should have swallowed him. He shows her that he has a bigger knife, forcing her to drop hers and to make the cops go away. Harper appears and asks Nova not to tell the cops anything because they haven't claimed the reward yet. This low-income white girl is crazy, so they tell Frank and Kate that the call was a mistake because Millie was playing with her phone. While teacher's pet Kate happily talks to Mr. Greenwood, Nova tells Frank that they closed early because Benny went home and they have no chef. When Harper offers the police free French fries for the inconvenience, Kate asks for extra barbecue sauce, but Nova adds ketchup instead. After the cops leave, Harper runs to the bathroom to have another breakdown. Nova asks if he's the doll keeper. He shows her a doll, saying it's a vessel doll, which takes the pain and suffering of their masters. He says that if she has one, she wouldn't feel what's going to happen to her because her vessel will bear it. When she asks him to let Millie go, he says Millie should have her own doll. Greenwood explains that he's there because he tracked his car and thanks them for taking care of the thief who stole it. When Frank and Kate return because of the sauce, the pissed Greenwood lets Kate in while Frank stays in the car. Nova instructs Millie to bite Greenwood. Then she throws a cup of coffee at him. She tells Kate that Greenwood is the doll keeper, but he immediately stabs Kate and slits her throat. Meanwhile, the beluga is just eating fries. Nova and Millie fetch Harper, who's horrified to see Benny's corpse. Nova then tells Frank that Greenwood is the doll keeper, but Greenwood stabs Frank's head. Oh, whale! Hiding in the pantry, Nova informs Harper that Greenwood is the doll keeper and feels horrible about Grady's death because he's innocent. When Millie's breathing starts to act up, Nova blasts music through the diner's speakers to distract Greenwood while she goes to get Millie's inhaler, and this leads to Greenwood pulling the wires off the service box. On her way back, she knocks down a table, alerting Greenwood, who has returned, so he runs after her. Thankfully, she gets to the pantry and Harper closes the door on time. Nova decides to trigger the fire alarm because it's not connected to the main power and is connected to the fire department. Unfortunately, it stops before it gets to 30 seconds, failing to trigger a dispatcher. Nova discovers that the fire alarm line has been cut, and Harper apologizes. Greenwood then appears, holding a knife against Millie's neck. Harper has betrayed Nova. Greenwood shows a video of Harper killing Grady. Harper says she doesn't want to ruin her life, and Nova reminds her that he won't let any of them walk out of there alive. This mayonnaise girl better get ketchuped. Susan arrives and knocks on the door, wondering why the diner is closed and dirty. Harper lies and says Benny quit. Susan is disappointed because she wanted to get under him. Then Harper manages to make her leave. Using Greenwood's car keys, Nova remotely opens Greenwood's car's trunk just as Susan walks past it. Greenwood confiscates his keys and imprisons Nova and Millie in the freezer. Susan discovers Heather's corpse and finds Frank and Kate's corpses in the police car. She grabs her gun from her car and returns to the diner, where she sees Harper with Greenwood. Greenwood calmly introduces himself to Susan to gain her trust and offers to call for help. Harper tells Susan that he's the doll keeper, so Susan points her gun at him, allowing Harper to take his phone. Nova calls for help through a vent, distracting Susan and Harper. Greenwood takes Susan's gun, causing her to accidentally shoot at the digital menu board, and the shards fall on the counter. He then stabs Karen to death so she can't call the manager anymore, and shoots at Harper, who runs away. He catches Harper outside and stabs her to death. Since Nova can't fit in the vent, Millie volunteers to climb out and successfully frees Nova from the freezer. Upon learning that they've escaped, Greenwood hunts them down. When he catches up to them, he knocks Nova out and puts Millie in the trunk with Heather. After he pours gasoline all over the diner and the police car, he returns to the spot where Nova fell, but she's no longer there, so he goes around to hunt her down. Nova attacks him and uses the appliances to aid her in fighting him since he's big back. He points his gun at her, but the diner's faulty deep fryer right next to him, which Nova has turned on, acts up and splats hot oil at him. Honestly, he's never looked more handsome. She tries to hit him while distracted, but he overpowers her and chokes her on the counter. Fortunately, she grabs a shard of glass, which she then uses to stab his neck, resulting in his death. Nova quickly runs to take the crying Millie out of the trunk, and she hugs her, relieved that she's okay. The police arrive, and their wounds get treated. Shortly after getting their statements, Detective Miller informs Nova that the family has reviewed Benny's call, and they'll give her the reward. Nova decides to take Millie away from Wade for good. I'm glad our girl grabbed that bag. A happy ending in a Tubi movie? It's rare. What did y'all think of this one?
Hey, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe now and turn on the notification because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you'd like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.